Now, Executive Suite with WPRI.com reporter Ted Nisi.
Welcome to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi. It's December, which means people are starting to think about filing their tax returns in the first part of next year. So later in the show, we're going to hear from a tax expert from BlumShapiro, the firm in Providence. But first, not every day that a president of the United States visits a Rhode Island restaurant staple, but that's what happened, as you see there, back in October when President Obama and Gina Raimondo, who was a candidate at the time, now the governor-elect, swung by Gregg's after he made a speech here in Providence. Then he got on Air Force One, as you see. I think he took a little cake with him. So here to talk with me about the visit to Gregg's and having the president there and the company's long history in Rhode Island is the co-owner of Gregg's, Bob Bacon. Bob, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Bob, that must be a little exciting still to see the footage.
It was an honor, and it was exciting. It was not a lot of notice, and so there was a lot of frantic preparation, but it was fun.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. I was so curious about the logistics of having a president come on it was a regular, I think, a Friday, weekday lunch.
Actually Halloween.
It was Halloween, yeah, people were in costume, which makes it even why you see that out there. So let's start at the beginning. When and how did you find out President Obama would be coming to Gregg's?
Roughly a half an hour before. I was actually on my way to our commissary in Pawtucket, and I got a call from my manager that said he thought something was going on because there were a bunch of guys in suits and black cars that were assembling in our side parking lot. My first thought was that I knew the president was in Providence and that maybe they were just assembling there. And then I thought, no, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So I got off the highway and stopped in the Providence location. And I was approached by a gentleman and said, somebody important might be visiting here, and we need to prepare as if he is. And I said, all right, what do we need to do? And that started a flurry of activity where they talked to my employees, they scanned each employee, they staged people around the Secret Service people throughout the building, and then they started with the customers as they came in, and basically told everybody, once he's here, you're here. So nobody comes, nobody goes, and if you're not okay with that, now's the time to speak up. And shortly thereafter, he showed up.
Did you have any hint? Did Governor-elect Raimondo give you a little wink there?
No,
nothing.
No, I guess they can't for security reasons, that sort of thing. And I was fortunate that I was in the area, but it was fun. And people feel all different ways about people's politics. Put that aside, he was a complete gentleman to my staff and couldn't have been more generous to my guests. So.
Do you have any idea why he chose Gregg's? I won't name them, but you've got rivals in Rhode Island.
Yeah,
why do you think you went to Gregg's?
I think partly it was a little bit Gina's doing, because she's a regular with us and has been for quite some time, and so I think she had something to do with that. And they also said that they were looking for somewhere that had people from all different walks of life and different different ethnicities and everything, and that's what Gregg's is about. We have a lot of different types of people in our restaurants.
And did you get a chance to say hello? I'm the owner of this place. Nice to meet you, Mr.
He was
President.
obviously prepped just a little bit because he greeted me by my first name, so I said that was pretty good. But we talked briefly about the restaurant and the restaurant business, and then he spoke at length with the staff, and he ordered his lunch to go. And while it was being prepared, he and the governor went around and shook hands with every single table in the dining room.
Did anybody, was anyone annoyed that their lunch was messed up by the president, or were people pretty excited?
No, there was so much excitement inside and outside the building, because there was all kinds of activity outside as well with state police and other Secret Service and dogs and you name it. I did have one customer that after the fact had not been able to come in and pick up her takeout order, and she was a little bit upset, but I kind of said, what was I supposed to do?
Leader of the free world's here. We got a deal. You get your cake later.
Yeah, it was great.
That's too funny. So I'm sure lots of people, not just presidents, have eaten at Gregg's who are watching today.
Yeah.
Not many people may though know the history of the company. How long has Gregg's been around on the scene, and how long have you been involved?
Gregg started shortly before 1972, but Ted Fuller took the concept over out of receivership in 1972, and it was kind of a New York-style deli and dessert concept, and he kind of built on that. He added a lot of things to the menu. In 1980, he opened up a second location. And up to that point, it was pretty much the management was done by family. It was him and his brother, his mother, and his father. And when they opened a second location, that brought on a whole new dimension in terms of management and not being on site all the time. And a couple of years later, he was at the point where he was either going to go back to one location or he was going to bring somebody in that he could trust. And I had a relationship with Brother Bill, and I'd gotten to know Ted when I ran the Barnside restaurant in the late 70s in the Rhode Island Mall, and got to know Bill. And so my name came up. We had some conversation. It was an opportunity for me to come into a job where I wasn't moving. The job I had with Barnside, I was moving all the time, and it was a great job. But my wife and I had a growing family, and she said that she wanted a place that she could hang her hat and stay. And so Ted offered that, and we talked about growth and talked about the future, and we did a handshake deal that we would grow the company together, and when he retired, that I would buy it, and that's exactly what happened.
25 years later, though, huh?
Yeah, it was a little while.
All on a handshake deal?
All on a handshake deal.
Wow.
And many times over the years, I had people counsel me, oh, you got to get it right, but it wasn't that kind of relationship. It was I trusted him, he trusted me.
Old school, and it seems to have worked for Greg's. How much has the company grown since you joined there back in '82?
Well, we've got 4 locations now, and we have a commissary that we opened back in 1988 that services all 4 locations, and we've done fairly well. Desserts have been a cornerstone for us, but we've branched out into a lot of different areas on our menu and what we do, and the growth has been pretty good. You
mentioned desserts. Do you recommend people eat a whole slice of Death by Chocolate cake
Absolutely.
in one sitting? Yeah, you think so? You think it's all right?
Yeah, take one home.
Take one home. I usually get through about half, and then I'm a little worried about.
Many people split and share, and that's certainly welcome. We welcome that too. But our desserts have earned a good reputation for good reasons.
That's for sure. And the president took one with him on Air Force One, I
Death
believe.
By Chocolate.
Took Death by Chocolate.
I believe the governor took another slice down to him when she went to visit.
Yeah,
him
he's very full, the president, coming up. So one thing about Gregg's that I find really interesting, people might not know, is POS Touch, which is, you might see it at home, the computer system that waitresses use to punch in orders and everything else. Yep. Gregg's came up with that back in the 80s, before computerization had really gone all through the restaurant industry,
When I came on board in 1982, one of the first things that we recognized was we had no inventory control. Everything was still being handwritten. And in order to facilitate the growth that we foresaw, we needed to get everything a little bit more under control. And very naively, we said, hey, we know a couple programmers, and we can build our own system. And that's where Ted deserves a lot of credit, because about 3 or 4 years into that, we had a fairly elaborate order system, but really what we had envisioned in terms of inventory and payroll control and that wasn't there. And he was money out of his pocket. He probably was $500,000 into it at that point. And most people would have given up. And he said, no, we're going to give it one more shot. We have a new programmer that seems to know what he's doing, and we're gonna stay with this for another year or 2. And they did. And Brother Bill ran that company, and Ted was an owner, and they built that company into what it is today. It's pretty much an international point of sale.
Yeah, really system. An impressive thing to come out of just the restaurant's need, but then it was driven by the need there.
Right.
Going back to the restaurant, to Gregg's itself, you took over 07, right before Rhode Island's economy just plunged into the doldrums.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I'm sure it was. How much was Gregg's affected? You know, restaurant spending, I could see that being very based on how people are feeling about their own finances. How was Gregg's affected by the recession?
The whole industry has been affected, and it became. One of the things that happened was that the ability to take some of the increasing costs that we were incurring and passing some of those on through menu prices, that was gone. It was a competitive pricing environment. Everybody was really pushing, to get customers through the door. So for a lot of the industry, margins got compromised a little bit, and we learned to operate on slimmer margins, and that's probably a good thing in the long run. But it was hectic. Fortunately, the pricing category we're in, we actually stayed pretty busy, and the number of people coming through the door was good. We feel we offered a good value, and people were looking for more value. They were a little more careful how they spent their money, and that actually worked to our advantage a little bit. And also, sometimes during times of stress, people turn to more of the comfort food.
Sure.
And we've got a lot of that. We've got the chicken pot pies and the mashed potatoes and the turkey that'll make you feel good.
Can't fix the stock market, but a nice piece of cake at least that night.
Yeah.
Has it bounced back to where
it
was
has.
pre-recession?
I think Rhode Island is still a little bit behind in terms of recovery. But one of the things that has happened is the reduction in gas prices has had a significant effect on our industry.
You're already seeing that.
You're already seeing that. That's just more disposable income. People that have a limited budget, when all is said and $30 or $40 more a week comes into their budget, fortunately they tend to spend it on things that they take pleasure out of, like going out to eat or going and having a drink somewhere, that sort of thing. And that's been an advantage. And I think that hopefully that'll continue, and that'll fuel a recovery for Rhode Island.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Gregg's and later hear some advice as tax season gets closer. Stay with us on Executive Suite. That is fact. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and right now I'm talking with the co-owner along with his wife, also Bobby, right?
Right,
You're Bob and she's Bobby with an I. Gregg's Restaurants, Bob Bacon, and we're talking about the restaurant industry and how Gregg's has been affected. You know, Bob, restaurant industry has a reputation as being notoriously tough to succeed, a lot of competition. Is that fair to say?
That is, yeah. It has actually gotten harder over the
How so?
more recent years. Well, you know, it always was. You worried about your food costs, your labor costs, and your sales. Those were the three components that you had to control, and that's still a big factor. But we found that more and more. I don't know if it's because we know more about what goes on around the world or not, but worldwide events have unbelievable effects on us. Things like a typhoon in Hawaii, all of a sudden the price of pineapple is hard to get and it's extremely expensive, or a drought in Mexico and California, and strawberries and lettuce and limes and stuff go through the roof, and things like that. And then in recent years, we've had the upcoming biofuel, and you think, oh, that's a good thing. Except it took a lot of corn out of the feed cycle, put it over to fuel, and then all of a sudden, the feeding the herds of cattle and chickens and pigs and stuff becomes more expensive. So consequently, the product's more expensive. And what they've done is a lot of the farmers can't afford it anymore, so they downsize the herds. So now the supply is down, so the price keeps going up. And you know, one of the more recent things was the next May there's going to be a ban on cod fishing in the Gulf of Maine, so that's going to have a drastic effect. So those things always existed, but it seems like they're more
whipped by events,
frequent and whipped by events, and there's not a lot of downsides anymore. They go up, but new in addition to that, we've really got some issues here in New England with energy costs. Now, the rest of the country, you know, natural gas, there's a lot of it, and it's cheap and all that stuff. Yeah, there is a lot of it. Well, we can't get it into New England. Pipelines. And last winter, we paid a lot of money for gas to heat our buildings, and for the gas to create electricity, almost to the point where it was critical, and the supply was definitely critical. And if we don't do something about supply, that cost is going to continue to escalate. And that's a cost that, you know, that's always been there, but it wasn't a significant portion of our expenses up until the last few years, and it's gotten more and more and more.
I have to think you're concerned then with what we're hearing about energy costs this winter.
Absolutely. And other things too, like everybody experiences the rising cost of water, for example, in their homes. Well, we have that in the restaurants. We use a lot of water. But in addition, we have been directed over the last several years to limit the amount of grease that we put out into the waste system. And so I've got great big tanks underground that are settling tanks, and the grease rises to the top. But periodically, I have to pump that out, and I have to dispose of it. And that used to be not even a cost. Now it's a significant cost because nobody wants to take it. So we're dealing with those sort of things, and we're doing it in that competitive pricing environment that I talked to you about before. So it's not like those new costs can be factored into your new menu prices, because you have to factor in your menu prices whether your guests can afford an increase, and oftentimes they can't.
Another one I'm curious about how these things impact you. Wages. You know, we have another minimum wage increase coming. I know that's always to some extent a concern, especially in the hospitality industry. What's your view on that?
Yeah, we're a very labor-intensive industry, and we use a lot of entry-level workers. As a matter of fact, I think if you poll the hospitality industry, we have a program going on. What was your first job? And most of the executives and the managers and key people in the industry started in some job like a dishwasher or a busboy. And if you go outside of an industry, I think you'll find also that many successful people outside of the hospitality industry had their first job in the hospitality industry and learned some people skills.
I know mine was.
Yeah, you walk up to a group of people, you have to establish a relationship right now. That skill will pay you dividends the rest of your life. And so when you raise the wage to a certain point, and we're all for a living wage, minimum wage is not really a factor with my people that have some skills that they've learned, because then competition takes over. I can't keep a good cook if I'm paying them $9 or $10 an hour. They have to make $15 or $20 an hour, and that's what that's what the industry demands if you want to keep them. What we would like to see is some sort of a starting wage where we can give somebody an opportunity to come in the door, maybe for 6 months or something, at a minimum wage similar to what we have now. So we get a chance to teach them some skills and let them get the skills at a level where then we're not worried about what the minimum wage is, because we're paying them based on a competitive wage. And that, if it doesn't happen, you're going to see a move towards less labor, more automation. You already see McDonald's is testing a thing now with the hamburger goes in one. It eliminates like 3 people in that process. You see a lot of touch screens. We talked about POS Touch, but there's a lot of handheld tablets now you're starting to see in restaurants. It's like where you order your second round of drinks on a touch screen. Well, it may come to the point, even though we're a people business, if wages get so high that we can't afford it erodes the margins to a point where you can't afford it, you're going to see things like that might be adapted. It's going to basically eliminate jobs and not increase jobs.
All right, all the time we have in this segment, but I want to thank Bob Bacon for joining me from Gregg's Restaurant. I don't think I mentioned he's also chair of the Rhode Island Hospitality Association, so good luck with that job as well. Don't go away, though. We're going to hear coming up about what to expect in next tax season and why renewable energy should be on Rhode Island's radar screen from BlumShapiro. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and now I'm pleased to be joined by Gregory Cabral. He's Office Managing Partner in Providence for BlumShapiro, which might not be a household name for the folks at home. Greg, thanks for joining me, and can you tell folks, what is BlumShapiro?
BlumShapiro might not be a household name around here, like you said, but they're a 40-year-old firm that's been around in West Hartford for that time. Grown outside of West Hartford into Rhode Island through the merger with Sullivan & Company, which might be a household name around here.
Yeah, people remember that.
Largest firm in New England, largest firm that's located in New England, over 400 employees. We're an accounting firm. We provide accounting, tax, and consulting services.
So what kind of clients base do you have? Are you doing average folks? Are you doing with companies more? What sort of people?
We're mostly a middle market company, private company owned. Industry groups of manufacturing companies, distribution companies, hospitality companies, healthcare, some governmental work, some education sector. That's pretty much it.
One thing I was interested in talking to bankers, accountants, folks in your line of work, you talk to a lot of different industries, a lot of different people day to day, your clients. I'm curious, we're hearing so much about the economy in Rhode Island, concerns, but hopes maybe that things will be getting better. What are you hearing from your clients? Are they getting more optimistic?
Really hearing from my clients, they're bullish on the future. Starting to see some improvement, starting to see some traction in some different industries and some industries that they haven't seen in the past.
Anybody feeling really good about it? Any industry sticking out to you? Is like, wow, they really feel a boom.
Nobody really in particular, but it's if you've got the right product or you've got the right channel that you're working in, they're really, really bullish on it right now.
And can you sense a change from what you were hearing from them a couple of years ago? I presume so, with the way the economy was.
Big change. Sort of doom and gloom in the past, where now they're hiring people. They're looking to put some additional people on. They're looking for new channels to sell their product in. And it's really, really moving in that direction.
Now, as an accountant, are you guys recession-proof, like they sometimes say? You know, you have to do your accounting at some point. Do you guys find it doesn't matter what's coming, they have to come to you?
To some extent, we do. In good times, they're coming to us looking for us to help them. In bad times, they're coming to us to help them.
Right.
So when it's kind of nothing's going on, is when we status quo as well.
Yeah, and you can go on with that. So tax season coming up, it must be a very busy time of year for your office.
Very busy right now. Very busy looking at what's going on for next year, what's going on for the rest of this year. There's some things that we're still waiting, hoping to hear from Congress. We haven't heard.
Yeah, as we're taping this, we're still waiting for them to pass the final budget bill for the year.
That's correct. And the House passed what's called the extender bill, which is a very pro-business bill right now.
Full of tax credits and such.
That's correct. And the Senate hasn't passed it yet. So all that bill is all retroactive back to 1/1/14. And quite honestly, expires at the end of 14. So we're playing a lot of different what-if scenarios with our clients right now, trying to get ahead of it, and so that they know what to expect.
Now, how concerned are they? Because there is talk in Washington that the tax extender bill might not pass. I mean, is that going to be were they expecting it all through the year, and now Congress might pull the rug out from them?
We have not been that way. We've been operating more that it wasn't going to happen because we didn't want to get caught on the wrong side. But right now, it's the end of the year. It's the 11th hour. We're trying to plan some cash flow with our clients, and like I said, we're playing what ifs. We're playing two different scenarios. So if something happens in the 11th hour, we can react pretty quickly.
Now, are there any big changes coming in? Of course, the tax extenders and what they do on that. Any other big changes that are on your radar screen for your clients, for people filing their taxes for next year?
Nothing yet, so to speak, from a personal point of view or from a business point of view. I think they're looking at the new Congress that's coming in, especially in the federal side, and I think they're looking at that and saying there hopefully will be some good things coming.
How about talking to your clients about, I mentioned to Bob Bacon earlier in the show about, what could be done to make things easier for businesses in Rhode Island, what the outlook is. Do you hear things to your clients regularly that they say, boy, if they just changed that, it would be great?
A lot of it, what we hear is in what I'm going to say is the application or approval process. It seems to get through some of the good things that Rhode Island has. it takes a number of steps, and it takes a number of places to go.
They're talking regulations there in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, and it's the permitting process. It's all of that is what I'm hearing from my
Just
clients.
slow and that, yeah. We always hear that from people on this show too. So, have to ask you, people at home might be starting to think about filing their own taxes, their personal taxes next year. They're probably going to assume you're good at it for your own family. What, any basic advice, things you tell your friends, hey, make sure you do this. People don't do it, but it's really important and it could help you out.
A lot of the stuff is really getting ahead of it and planning all the way through the year. It's not planning at the 11th hour. It's planning.
It's too late, folks.
It's not too late. I mean, we're working on it hard right now with our clients. Quite honestly, there's a whole host of things you can do, from retirement plan contributions to accelerating charitable contributions. But I've got to be careful. Is everybody's situation is different. So what I'm talking to you about may be something totally different than I'm talking to somebody else about. So it's a situation by situation. We are with our clients, touching them pretty much almost every day right now to make sure that they get to that point.
So it's a lot of planning. It's not just give us your bills at the end of the year and we'll file the return.
That's right. And that's really where what we do good is we're with our clients all year long. We're trying to, we really partner with them so that we can kind of get involved with their business and keep that, and actually help keep the most cash flow in their pocket.
Now, pivoting a little, this is interesting. We only have about 2 minutes left, but you recently, BlumShapiro, hosted a panel discussion focused on renewable energy. Funny, because we were just talking about energy with Bob Bacon as well. How was that on your radar screen as an accounting and consulting firm, and what did you take away from the event?
Well, the biggest thing that we saw is it's a little bit what Bob talked about, is we're seeing utility cost really, really escalating. And we're trying to find a way to help our clients reduce that cost. So part of it was educating them on some of the different types of energy that's out there, the opportunities that might be out there, and the cost savings that could be there. So we, as a firm, as a tax consulting accounting firm, we really can work with our client, try to help them identify the best solution that might be for them, whether it be with some of the federal credits, whether it be some of the different programs that are out there to help reduce that cost. So
you're actually starting to push businesses toward, you got to look at this stuff. It's not just, greens, pie in the sky, solar power, whatever. It's a business decision.
Yes. Since we had that program, I've had to have had at a minimum 3 different clients that we've gone and talked to, and we're doing some modeling and we're doing some projection as to what makes sense for them.
So we'll see you up on the roof putting the solar panels up.
I don't know if I'm going to be up there doing that.
All right, that's all the time we have. I want to thank Gregory Cabral from BlumShapiro for joining me, and Bob Bacon from Gregg's Restaurants in the first half. If you missed any of this show or any other episode of Executive Suite, you can always catch up on those on our website, WPRI.com. Be sure to join us next week when my guests will be the father and son owners of New England Construction, talking about how you deal with changing generations in a big family business. Thanks as always for joining me. We'll see you next week on Executive Suite.